Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that have made a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And we are in season 3, and I have another special guest. Her name is Karen Hale. Karen is the Senior Program Manager of Global Mobility for Unity Technologies. She is also an honoree of Global Mobility Top 250, which was presented by Benevio. Hey, so excited to have you on the show. Hey, Karen, how you doing?
I'm doing great. So exciting to be here.
Okay, I want to touch on this top 250 as we just kind of jump right on. Me and you actually we met online. You're a real big part of the mobility community, and we've connected. And I wanted to ask you. I saw where you were presented. They present Benevio, which is Brian Friedman, A View from the Top, I believe is a show. And he does a wonderful job of recognizing mobility professionals in our industry. And you were one of the people that was recognized. I was just curious, like, did you know that was coming? How did that feel?
So I just before the show, I got a little hint that perhaps I made the list, but I still was very skeptical. So I honestly sat there and watched the show in, curiosity. Of course, I have friends that were on the list as well in the business. So, mostly to recognize and celebrate them. So it was a bit of a shock, frankly, to make that list. A very pleasant surprise, but a shock nonetheless.
Yeah, so Brian Friedman, he is the strategy director for Benevo, and he does a wonderful job doing recognizing mobility professionals. He also recognized mobility service providers. And I was one of the ones selected in 2021. And I remember somebody texted me. I didn't even know that was coming at all. I mean, I was aware of it, but somebody texted me. And so I went into, and I was like, first of all, I was shocked. I was like, this is fantastic just to be part of this group. But second of all, I went back and I thought about something. When I first started in this business 25 years ago, I remember thinking, I want to like be more than a service provider, be more than a mover or someone assisting someone with moving. And when that recognition came, it really humbled me. And I thought about, wow, this is like what I was going for, like, because you're recognized for your, being admired in the profession. So what are your thoughts around that? I mean, I was just like, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely very humbling. I can imagine such a thing back when I started in mobility many years ago. It's also a little, I want to make sure that people know that mobility is a team sport.
Yeah.
And none of us get here alone. So while the personal recognition is great, none of us get that personal recognition without the hard work of a lot of teammates, bosses, mentors, and others that have helped us grow in this business and get to where we are. So certainly, I hope that they all feel the recognition with me, all my former colleagues and current colleagues, because it is definitely a group achievement. While the personal recognition is nice, it wouldn't work without the whole team working together.
I'm glad you shared that because I actually saw a post on LinkedIn where you recognized your team, said, hey, this isn't possible without a team. And I love that. And I'm the same way. I'm like, there's so many people in our path that help us every single day. And to be recognized, yes, that's great. But then to take that and really pour that on your team, let them know that, hey, if it wasn't for you, none of this would be happening. Hey, talk about your team. I'm curious if you could just share real quick for the listeners, a brief highlight of Unity Technologies. Like, how do you serve your customers?
So those that are maybe familiar with Unity Technologies probably think of us as a gaming company, but we're not a traditional gaming company in the sense that we produce video games and release them. What we really are is a platform that has lots of tools for creators. So we help others create their vision originally in the video game industry, but now we're doing things with manufacturing, industrial complexes, auto manufacturing, architecture, even some really cool things right now with sports and live entertainment, and how to change the viewer experience. But our goal is really that everyone has a creative streak, and we're trying to put the tools in the hands of people both professionally and personally to be able to use that and build and grow something digitally online, to express themselves. So it's kind of an interesting, very innovative, very dynamic perspective. So our end users are really everyone that's out there, potentially, either currently or potentially. But of course, from an HR mobility perspective, our key stakeholders are our employees, our HR business partners, our talent acquisition, recruiting team, and then all the hiring managers and others that are involved in the process of having to move people around or help secure visas for employees. So our stakeholders are many, which is one of the great things about this business, I think. But it's also one of the challenges for sure.
Oh man, that's so fantastic. I love that. Hey, let's go way back. I would love to hear the Karen Hale story. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR, mobility in your career?
So I was a military kid. We moved around quite a bit as a young child, and I think I lived in 7 or 8 states, and we also lived in Japan for a couple of years. So I think from the very early age, I was very interested in, I didn't know relocation as a job was a thing, but I obviously had the life experience with it. And then I'm very interested in the world that was around us. After my dad retired to the military, we settled in the Dallas area, and he took a job, a rather unusual job, but he took a job that required him to move or travel all over the world. So we were constantly looking at all the things he brought back, the coins and the bills, and we would play, the where in the world is dad game, looking at the globe or the map to figure out where he was at that moment in time. So I think my interest from that point was, curiosity. I knew the world was much bigger than my little neighborhood and my school. So I think that started the seeds of it. I went on to college and then graduate school studying generically what's called international affairs. So I could continue to learn about the world. I loved it because it was multidisciplinary. So I could take business classes, I could take geography classes, history classes, foreign languages. So I got to do a lot of things. The difficulty is when you get out with a great foundational liberal arts degree is how do you turn that into an actual career? So that was a bit of a struggle, to be honest. Looking for a job that works with that kind of degree. It's not like being a doctor or an engineer. There's no inherent fit for that background. So a lot of job interviews. My first job I ended up taking was actually with what was called at the time the Greater Dallas Chamber of Commerce in their international trade division. So it was super exciting, super interesting. As a nonprofit, though, the pay was very low. So, but I got to do some super fun things. One time I got to have dinner at the mayor's house. One time, we got to work on they used to have a ball. I don't know if they still do, but they bring in all the foreign ambassadors to Dallas from DC. So we got to help plan that. I got to meet the elder George Bush, who was a keynote speaker. One time, not really meet, shake his hand and get a quick picture. So we didn't bond or anything of that sort, but great experience. Again, not really sure where to go with that. But one day I did hear some people that worked with us at the chamber talking about the fact that someone had interviewed with Ernst & Young in Dallas with their global mobility. At the time, I think it was called Global Employment Solutions team. And they said they weren't really interested because it was kind of an HR job. And I heard them and I thought, well, I wouldn't be opposed to an HR type job. So I went out there and looked into it, applied, got the job. And that was really the foundation of my career in this particular industry with relocation, mobility, and immigration. I just found it was a natural fit for me. I love the people, I love the work. And at that time, it was kind of a new and growing thing that the Big Four was involved in. And so we just got such great exposure to all the different elements of everything from vendor management, compensation, taxes, maybe not so much immigration, but being a relocation consultant to individuals and learning what the business was all about. So a little zigzag path.
I love that.
Loved it.
I love that. Oh my gosh. First of all, shaking hands with President George H.W. Bush, even though you said it wasn't a personal interaction. I just posted, we're actually taping this on President's Day. Fun fact here about you shaking hands. Behind me is a picture of my oldest son shaking hands with President George H.W. Bush at a Texas A&M Oklahoma football game. And it was just a real quick, it was so cool. So when you said that, I was like, wow, how ironic. Here we are on President's Day. I love that. And little did you know where that global employment solutions was going to lead you. Now, you went on to work for a relocation management company and then a corporation. Is that correct?
So I've done a little zigzagging. So after EY, then I worked internally in a corporate job for TXU. Back at the time, it was a multinational. So we had people in several countries, a lot of, a fair number of expat assignments and things like that. From there, then I went into the relocation management side. So I've worked at Curtis and Caprilo with some of the RMCs. And then back to the corporate world. So I've tried, I think I've hit all of the ways you can do mobility from the big four side, the RMC side, and the corporate side. But I think having done that is a great experience because you really, like when I talk to my people at the, my consultants in business contacts at RMCs, I get what's happening on their side. I feel it. Same with the tax firms. I don't know if they can feel what I'm dealing with from the corporate side if they haven't done that, but I definitely can put myself in their shoes, and I think that just makes for a better experience for all of us. Oh
my goodness, you are right, man. Bullseye. A great experiences so you can help others along the way, and plus, I bet the people that you work with on the service provider side love working with you because it's a true partnership. You get what they do, and they're trying to serve your needs along the way. Hey, I'm curious. Was there did you ever have any mentors or people that like helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously starting at the beginning is my parents, right? I mean, that my dad created that love of international and gave us the experience to actually go through relocation a number of times through his job. My mom's a retired teacher, so her love of people and her love of learning and helping is great. Both my parents were very active volunteers in their communities. Fortunately, my dad's passed, but my mom still is. So definitely the helping people, being out there, making a difference is ingrained from my roots. But career-wise, they're always, I think I take something from everybody I work with. You learn something, tricks, tips, styles. I would say, to call out a few names, Bill Bailey, who kind of started that global employment solutions team, and later on to be a VP of comp at Curtis. He built a great team. I mean, they did a great job hiring people, many of whom are still in this business with that same foundation that I have. A lot of us still keep in touch, even though we've scattered all different directions now. But a lot of us are still, connected through Facebook, and occasionally we get to see each other from time to time. But, really providing us that ground level training to give us what we needed to be successful, I think comes from the way EY operated that group at that time. But then, even more recently, prior to coming to Unity, I was at Beckman Dickinson, or BD. Great group of friends and colleagues there. Berna Anderson, was last year in the top 100 and this year top 250 since they broadened it, has been a great sounding point. She and I were texting not long ago as well, and I've talked to them as well. So, they're great people in this business, and they're out there and they stay in touch. So it's great to have that network.
It's one common thread I see is whenever I'm interviewing high performers, in the leadership lane. They are all surrounded by great people, and they've had great mentors who have helped them, and then they continue to pay that forward and help others. I love that, and I appreciate you sharing that. I love that story you said. Play of the game. Where's Dad? And it's really neat, as you said. And I'm sorry to hear about him not being with you, but what a legacy. What a legacy he's left in you to create that curiosity and to like look at it from a whole world view and to be able to be in a position to help people, not just in the US, but all over the world. I just think that's absolutely cool.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, it's hard when your parents travel. I think
Yeah.
anyone that's in business and has a role that travels a lot,
Yeah.
it's hard when your parents aren't there all the time.
Yeah.
Without going to, without spending the whole hour talking about it, his job was a little unusual. So when he left, we didn't know if he was going to be gone 3 days or 3 months. So he did explosives for oil well fires. So kind of, so like in Kuwait, when that happened during the first Gulf War, he'd be gone for quite a long time. So helping to put out those oil well fires. So it's hard as a kid to have that, lack of consistency and your parent not being there. But at the same time, we made the best of it. He taught us a lot. We learned from his experiences. And like I said, he definitely planted the seeds along with my mom, and who kept held down the fort during all those times he was gone, to make us curious about the world. And my sister does something completely different than what I do, but I think we both love to travel. We both love to learn. Her daughter, who's in college, is about to do an internship in Chile this summer. So I think maybe we're continuing to pass it down through the generations.
That is fantastic. I love that. Hey, let's talk about mobility. We're sitting here talking about mobility. And by the way, I haven't asked this question. I gave you a list of some questions I might ask. I didn't have this on there, but I'm just curious your thoughts on this. We talk about mobility, and then others talk about relocation. Is it better? Does it sound better saying mobility or you're in relocation? What's your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Well, I think any of us that have been around the business for a while know that we go through regular naming changes. I think that's true for HR in general. Mobility is specific. Even now, sometimes it's being called, talent mobility, or even HR is kind of fading away a little bit as a phrase in a name. But I think there's pros and cons. I mean, from a pro, I think mobility is a good descriptor of we're moving people, right? You're mobile. The word implies what the work that we do. It doesn't necessarily, inherently indicate the immigration pieces that some of us also work on. So sometimes it's like mobility and immigration, or relocation and immigration, if we want to be really clear about what we do. But I do find sometimes, like when I came to Unity, I found that the phrase internal mobility was already quite popular and institutionalized here. And it really means kind of that career development and career growth, whether it's lateral, upwards, and so forth. But so that gets a little confusing when we talk about mobility or global mobility with internal mobility, because sometimes those things are connected and sometimes they're not. So we've had to kind of work through that. And I know, and I think somewhere in, I don't know, like this telecommunication space, there's also, or IT space, there's some words called mobility, and it has to do with kind of cell phones or whatever. I've heard that because I've had some recruiters reach out to me and I'm like, this isn't at all what I do. I cannot help you in this area.
Oh my goodness.
You would not want to, you would not, I would be a bad hire for sure.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that perspective. I guarantee there's going to be some people that are listening that have probably thought the very same thing. I love how you frame that. Fantastic. Hey, now I'm curious in your role. So do you have like a team? How big is your team, or is it a department of one?
So right now at Unity, we are growing really quickly. So we're only, a little over 20 years old. We only went public a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
So right now we're running about 6,000 employees, but we have very aggressive hiring plans. So right now I'm a team of 3. I have a lead that sits in Austin, Texas who's our Americas lead. And then one that sits in London, who's our EMEA lead. We don't have enough work in Asia yet for me to be able to justify a full-time person, but we work closely with our HR operations team there for those moves that we have into or out of or within Asia. I am excited though. I have 2 openings posted right now. So we're going to be adding 2 mobility coordinators. So I'm going to almost double my team shortly, I hope. So I'll have an additional person supporting Americas, additional person supporting EMEA. But with the growth that we're experiencing, we need the extra help. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love growth. When you talk about growing, it's like it's energizing. It means things are happening. And I'm curious. I like to ask the question for my guests, that are leading a team. Like, how do you, like, if someone says, "Hey, Karen, what is leadership?" How would you respond to that?
well, Unity actually does something really interesting I discovered after I get here, which is they do leadership training, as most companies do, but they actually open it up to every employee because they feel like they want managers and leaders to take the training. I mean, we kind of have to, but every employee can sign up and take the training, and they're encouraged to do so because leadership isn't about your title or the fact that you even manage people. We all have responsibilities. We all have the opportunity to lead. And I think, when people talk about leadership, they're really looking at, can someone be empathetic? Can they be, are they honest? Are they transparent? Do they help drive things forward? Do they take initiative? And again, all of us can do that in our daily roles. Your title doesn't determine, not like there's a magic button, you become a manager and all of a sudden you need, you acquire those skill sets or have to show those skill sets. So, again, there's daily ways to be leaders. And I think part of that is being a servant. And I know that phrase servant leadership has been popular in past years. But I think that's always been the truth, even before that became a catchphrase. So I feel like my job is really to make everyone's life as easy as I can. And that includes my boss. It includes my employees by getting roadblocks out of their way so they can get their work done more efficiently and with less stress. It's for our employees. How do we really help their experience? How do we pay attention to their needs and make sure that we're helping them? So, I think being a leader is just staying attuned to those around you and jumping in where there's a need and trying to make a difference.
I love that. I love everything about it. And I love how you have purpose. Like you said, "Hey, my job is to, make it the best for my boss, for the people around me, whatever I can do to do that." And I love how you said, remove those rocks, those obstacles, so they can do what they do. And I just absolutely love that. I'm curious. Now you have been with your company for a very short time. And so
Since last August.
since last August. Okay. So a couple of things. Number one, I do want to ask you around silver linings, but before I do that, I want to ask you this leadership development. Whenever someone talks about a company that has leadership development for their team, I always think about John Maxwell way back saying, you grow your people, you grow your organization. I just think that that's the easy, hard stuff, right? As my friend Suzanne Myers like to say. Did you go through the training, and how long? I'm just curious, how long was that leadership, or is that leadership training for employees?
So the one specific, the one that we do at Unity was 2 days
Okay.
originally in person, but with COVID, obviously it's gone to online
Okay.
and virtual. And because of that, they've shortened it a little bit. So it was like 2 5-hour sessions with
Okay.
breaks. So not quite 2 full days. But there's other, obviously everyone when they start gets a cultural values training. Everyone gets other trainings, how to grow your career at Unity, things of that sort. So not leadership specific, but there's a wide variety. Our wellness team actually has done something for February specifically, where they put out a little daily calendar with activities you can do every day. They're just quick. They're through LinkedIn Learning. Go watch a video that's less than 5 minutes a day. This month is focused because it's February. Valentine's Day is focused on how to build your relationships.
Oh.
So every day there's a 5-minute or less, a link to a LinkedIn Learning session about how to grow your relationships with people around you. So there's lots of ways to do it. I think Unity is doing a great job at getting those resources out there, encouraging people to think about these things in different ways. And then of course, hopefully people that are driven are working on it on their own as well, outside of the company initiatives.
This is so good. So everybody that's listening right now, write this down, because I always talk about this podcast. It's more than a podcast. I mean, this is a learning community, and everybody that comes on as a guest is always bringing ideas. And this idea right here about having this wellness counter, you would just think that, yeah, everybody's got one. Well, not everybody has this. And when you say, yep, the month of February, we're focusing on relationships, I'm like that gives me chills. Just to hear a company is doing that for their people, that's got to be fulfilling to you. I'm curious, like, I always talk about finding your lane. And that, I mean, it sounds like to me, you're a pretty great company. What is it that you love about mobility so much, Karen?
Well, I love learning about other cultures and other people.
Yeah.
People are just so diverse. They're sometimes so quirky. I mean, no matter how long you're in this business, you can never get into a routine. Every day it's going to be a new question, a new learning experience. So if someone's interested in a position where you will never be bored, this is the one. That's not to say we don't sometimes do boring tasks. Auditing vendor invoices perhaps is not my favorite part of the job, but there are no job is perfect. You're not going to love every minute of it, but we really get to impact people's lives. For mobility, I feel like I've said we actually know them better than their best friends or their own family members, because we know about their housing, we know about their kids, we know about their pets, we know about their financial status, their taxes, their immigration status. I mean, there's literally no part of a person that we don't touch in mobility. But I think with that comes a lot of responsibility, because we really are working with a whole family, with real people that have real challenges and needs. And it's a responsibility to try to do that right and treat them the way that you would want to be treated if you were the one moving.
So I want to ask you something as you talk about this. I love that. And you use the word responsibility, and I love all of this. You just mentioned earlier that you're growing your team, right? And you got some openings, and you're going to be filling these openings. What do you look for in a team member joining? I mean, because you just explained, like, this is what we do, but yet we have a responsibility here to make things better for others. What do you typically, like, when someone comes on like that? What are you going to look for?
Well, we are hiring for more junior roles, so I'm not necessarily looking for a great depth of experience or width of experience in mobility. It's really about those soft skills. So, are they culturally aware? Do they have, are they able to communicate clearly? Because we all know that bad communication in this job leads to disasters potentially, or upset employees. So we need to be, good communication. So if they have foreign language skills, that's great. It's a bonus, but not a requirement. It's, attention to detail, time management, even some financial basic mathematical knowledge. So, I mean, we're not doing, complex algorithms here, but, you need to be able to make sure your numbers add up and you're not typing incorrect numbers.
Well, and as I think about you earlier and what you're describing here, I feel like, I tell people all the time that when they ask me, like, hey, is there something I can do? I'm trying to grow my career. And I always say, if you want more, you need to just become more. So you talked about communication, right? You can go take a Toastmasters. You can do all of these things to just keep getting better, you personally, and get in position. The skill sets will be trained eventually. But if you just have all these soft skills that you can work on every day, that will always put you in a better position, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we can teach about the different visa types, and we can teach, how to work a vendor system. We can't teach someone how to be empathetic, how to, meet deadlines, and really, understand the needs of the people that they're working with, and how important communication is. So soft skills at the end of the day, I think in our business, maybe more than others, is really what makes or breaks success.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Hey, and you've been doing this for a long time. You've seen it from a lot of different viewpoints. I'm curious about your thoughts. We've had a lot of change, as you know, over the last couple of years, in just our the way we work, the way we move people, all of the way we're sitting here doing a Zoom right here. What do you see for mobility going forward? Do you see anything different? Or let me start by asking you this: have there been any silver linings that has helped you over the last couple of years? And then the second question to that is, where do you see mobility going? Any thoughts around that?
Well, I think the silver linings are greater flexibility for people and more recognition of employees as a whole being. As I mentioned, mobility, we've always had to do that. We've had to know about their families and things like that. Other roles that, outside of mobility, I don't think that's been the case. And I think, we understand if someone's kid jumps into a Zoom meeting, and we, and it makes us, even more
Or a cat?
empathetic to, oh my gosh, like how are they doing this work and dealing with a 4-year-old at the same time? Like how does that even happen? Frankly, I was grateful my kids were a little bit older when we had to go to homeschooling, because I was like, if I have to manage constantly, like telling them what to do and what time to be online, I don't even know how that would have worked and and working at the same time. So I think the knowledge and acceptance of people as more than just the face you see on the screen has been a positive. But the negatives are just people miss being together. You miss that, especially if you are trying to train and develop somebody, the ability to lean over and ask a quick question or share a quick bit of information, or, hey, come over and look at this, it's something I need you to see. We lose that a little bit. For as far as trends, I think for mobility, we're lagging a little behind with using technology to make our processes more efficient. Again, we're so focused on the human touch, which is absolutely critical, but I don't think our technology is kept up with other industries while we're doing that. And I think that's definitely going to be a big trend coming in the days ahead, weeks, years ahead. How do we integrate our vendor platforms? How do we, take out some of the administrative lag that we've got in our processes, and yet still keep that really highly personal experience, the human touch at the same time. Working for a super cutting edge, innovative tech company, I feel the pressure a little bit because I'm like, I need my technology to measure up. These are very tech savvy people. They're used to doing things online. Asking them to fill out a paper form or something, it just doesn't even register with them. So we really need to get the technology at a place where we can meet them with their needs and their skills and the way they're used to working. So it'll be fun to see what's coming from some of the providers out there.
What a gift to be in a position to be able to help kind of move that. I mean, you could really be instrumental in helping companies really get that alignment. It's funny when you say that, we work with a lot of different relocation management companies as well. And each time we bring on a new relocation management company, the question for the move coordinator is always going to be, well, do I need to double entry these? Do I need to put it in our system, then put it in their system, and then put it in this other system? And then being able to have that technology integration, man, that would be incredible. And so I think you hit the nail on the head for that, of course. Let me ask you this question. I want to ask you a couple more questions about mobility. The first question I want to ask is for a family that is relocating. Let's just say it can be US or abroad, but just for the simple purpose, let's just say US based. Are there any tips that you find yourself sharing with employees in their families that you've seen that will help make their relocation a better experience?
I think definitely the more networking they can do, both through the official sources that we provide them, but as well as with other employees that may already live in that location, to really get on the ground information about the city, the neighborhoods, the schools. So they end up in the right place for their family. Some people have very specific school needs, but at the same time, not to believe everything that they read on the internet. I know back when I was at TXU and we used to move people into Dallas, my international employees that were moving, they'd all come and say, oh, well, we want to live in the Park Cities. And I would and for those that know Dallas, that's that kind of high end neighborhood, right? It's kind of a posh neighborhood. So I would say, well, that's nice. We all want to live there, but that doesn't mean that's the best, because they see the information on, the schools are great and that, but that doesn't mean that's an area that's practical for you to live based on the salary that you're receiving. So find the information that's out there, but talk to employees that are similar to you, find out what they think, and get some information from them to help make some of those decisions. Because I think, success is partly the family success is going to be based on finding a place in a community where you fit in, where you're happy, where you integrate quickly. And so that's really the key thing. I mean, the employee's going to be okay at their job. The company's going to take care of them and get them settled. But it's getting the family settled that sometimes can really create, when a family doesn't acclimate well, that's where the issues come in.
Love that. I appreciate you sharing that, because there's going to be some people that are listening that are be able to take some of those tips. I want to ask you one last question around mobility here. And I want to take it to the other side, right? So there's a lot of the big HR community and a lot of people that are listening, they may touch relocation, but yet they're not, it's not a single department, right? They're doing a lot of different things, as you probably are aware of.
Yeah.
But they want to drive their program and make it a little bit better experience as well, not just for the transferee, but also for anyone within the organization. Any tips you would share that you said, you know what, we did these couple of things that this has always made it for a better mobility program? Any thoughts around that?
I think it's a true partnership. So I would say get to know your relocation team, your immigration team. I know that when you're busy with 100,000 things on your to-do list, you're not going to be an expert in these areas.
Yeah.
But really share what's going on. Trust your team to give you the good advice. But where there are always areas for improvement, I think, on both sides. We've recently made some system changes, for instance, to try to help because our hiring is out of sight, make some process improvements for everyone. So we came up with an automated form where recruiters can automatically ask us for an immigration assessment or a relocation cost estimate. And it's a smart form. So it only asks them to fill out fields that we need for that particular set of variables. And it seems to be working well. Everyone seems to be happy with it. It makes it cleaner for us because we're not getting random IMs and emails and things of that sort that may not even have they might even tell us where they're moving or what their situation is. So this way we make sure we get what we need to get a faster response, and they know that they're getting the request to us the way we need it. So again, they're happy because we're getting the answers back to them a little more quickly.
I love that. I think that's probably one of the number one questions that's asked anytime the relocation is being talked about with talent acquisition or business unit managers. How much is this going to cost? And it's so funny how, I'll get calls from different people and they're like, yeah, I talked to different companies and I can't really get a cost for the move unless they go out and do the survey. I'm like, listen, you can get cost estimates when you put in like a, zip code for an origin and destination. I mean, that is like, those are, I always talked about a 5-star experience. Published my new book, Life in the Leadership Lane. And that's one of the chapters. And I always talk about a 5-star experience is like getting, like if somebody has a need, just a real quick need, being able to automate that and get that out to them. I love what you've done in your organization.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, like I said, technology is the way that we're going to make some of these things more efficient.
Yeah.
But it's, we need to be able to do that. We do always put the disclaimer that it is an estimate, of course, and subject to change. But yeah, I mean, certainly we've got to get quick information out there to people. For instance, visas, managers need to know if they can hire this person, but it may take us 6 months before they can get officially hired because I mean, that's the time lag for visas. So, the information up front is really critical. And I just encourage everybody to work really closely with their, internal experts, or if they don't have internal, then external experts, to try to make that a good process so that everyone's on the same page, everyone's working from the same information, making decisions based on the best information that's available.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Hey, I want to ask you, I mean, you seem like a pretty driven person. Like, what drives you, Karen?
Honestly, I'm fairly laid back actually, but I do love what I do. And so, I love this business. I love helping the people, and I do think what we do at the end of the day makes a difference. I think it's easy though to get caught up sometimes in the process and the technical details, but we have to really remember the people that are at the end of these decisions. And it's just critical that we do that. When we tell someone, oh no, you can't travel to this country, what the impact is on them when they still haven't seen their family for 2 years. And now we're telling them they can't go because it's a corporate tax risk or something of that sort, to remember the humanity in the process. But yeah, I mean, I love my family. I love pets, animal. I'm a big animal fan. I love to read. But I think most of all, and one of the soft skills I think that I love that made me a good fit for this job is, just the curiosity, the willingness, interest in growing, interest in learning, trying to go with an open mind. People teach me new things every single day. So I feel like I become out a better person for that at the end. But you've got to have that willingness to hear and listen and ask, questions in a respectful way to be able to do that.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I love you keep using the word curiosity. And, but what I most love just now about what you said was, and I think it's the first step to creating anything, energy, engagement, whatever that is. You said, I love what I do. And I think that's where it starts. Like, you have to love what you do. And when you find that, I always call it, when you find your lane, it really is not a myth when people say, when you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. You're working, but it just doesn't feel like that. Would you say you found your lane?
I definitely feel like I found my lane. That doesn't mean there aren't hard days. Doesn't mean there aren't days where, you want to bang your head on the table a little bit, or take a long vacation. But, no, I do. I definitely love it. I wouldn't still be here, I don't think, if I didn't. And it's a great challenge. Like I said, I like solving problems for people. I like making things better. Okay, unfortunately, we can't always give people the answers they want to hear, but trying to, even we have to say no, delivering that in a way that's respectful. And maybe we have to say no, but think about these things. So yeah, it's great. But I mean, to go back to what we talked about at the beginning, I didn't even know this job was a job, right? I mean, it's pure luck to some extent that I'm even here. So I would just encourage people to, try different things, think outside the box. I mean, this isn't a job they tell you about in school. So, there's millions of jobs out there. And it's just a matter of finding, trying things and finding what works best for you.
Love it. Oh my goodness. That is so good. Listen, the time goes by so fast. I love it. We're going to shift over to, it's time to accelerate. It's the last part of the show. I'm going to ask you just a few questions. You mentioned earlier that you love to read, and I always like to ask the question, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
I like to read books still, but I have kind of switched to audiobooks and podcasts to some extent, but I'm mostly a paper book person still.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So outside of mobility and helping people, like what energizes you?
Well, I love traveling. I think I have a bit of an explorer gene in my root somewhere, because even, obviously I love getting on a plane and going somewhere new. I'm kind of, once I've been somewhere, I figure that box is checked, and I tend not to go back to the same place. But I even do it here with day trips. I'll tell the family, like, well, let's get in the car. We're going to go do something today. We're going to go explore a town we've never been to, or we're going to go to the state park or whatever. And, my kids, like I said, they're a little older, late teens now, but I kind of grown and like, oh gosh, we know what mom's trips are like. That means 2 hours in the car each way. But I love to get out there and see what's out there in the world.
Oh my gosh, you are so energizing. Hey, I got one last question, and this is like one of my favorite questions. And so Karen, 10 years older, is around the corner knocking at your door, and you are going to go answer that door. What's she going to say to you?
Well, I'll be on the downswing of my career by then. So I'm hoping she's saying, did you enjoy it? Did you make the most of it? Did you treat people right? Did you do the best you could? Given the circumstances that are available. And those are my goals. And so I'm hoping that my future self will be proud of not just the work I did, but how I did the work. So
that is a 10-year-old wiser Karen. I love that. Did you do the best you could? And did you treat people? I love that. Hey, you are definitely living and driving in the leadership lane. And so I want to say thank you so much for just coming on and just sharing your wisdom and perspective. I know some of the things you shared today is going to help some people. If somebody heard something from you today and wanted to learn a little bit more, what's the best way they could connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. It's under Karen East, EAST, space Hale, HALE. So my maiden name in there because that's how I started my career. So, but definitely feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone that wants to learn more about the business or has other questions for me.
So now I know why you are top 250 global mobility. Incredible conversation. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I just cannot wait to share this conversation.
Thanks. I'm excited. Happy to help again. Look forward to seeing you at a future event and a lot of the others in the mobility community as well.
Absolutely. Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you.